Let's begin with GDP numbers tonight. India's GDP has shrunk minus 7.3% in the last financial year. You see that graph on your screen on how it has been year on year, starting 2012 to now in this pandemic, second year of the pandemic really. However, the surprising thing here is to be noted that the quarter 4, set to have the maximum impact of the pandemic really, saw 1.6% plus, and the quarter 3 revised upwards as well to 0.4%. And if you look at the sectors over there, the agricultural sector at the moment is in the last quarter was 3.1% versus 4.5% earlier. And 2 of the 8 sectors have also seen growth that we've talked about. We showed you agriculture, even power and water, etc., have gone up by 1.9%.
If we look at the vaccination, there has been increase in the vaccine doses, but there is certainly a need to enhance the pace of coverage for the population. I think for the economy as well, the pace of vaccination picking up, I think, is extremely important, because that will help in lowering the likelihood of another wave, and thereby also positively enable the economic recovery.
To understand this in a bit of detail, we've got Sunil Prabhu joining us tonight. Sunil, to look at these numbers, not a good picture at all. But then again, the quarter 4 showing 1.9% at this point, and the projections for a third wave, what does this tell us about what times lie ahead of us?
Well, that's the most important part, and I think a lot of points were stressed by the Chief Economic Advisor in his presentation about the second wave. Where he said the rise has been as steep as well as the decline has also been pretty steep. So that's the silver lining in that, of course. But using Google, using various other projections, including e-way bills, saying that the economy has definitely been hit in April and May. We'll have to wait and see what will be in terms of groceries and various other FMCGs, how things will turn up in terms of a revival in the economy. So that's something that needs to be taken note of. 2 important points. One, of course, that you need to increase the pace of vaccination. The second, and the most important, is to continue fiscal and monetary efforts, something that which has been reflected by traders, by the CII, by all business houses, that the government needs to do much more in terms of fiscal and monetary policy to ensure that India is able to cushion this second wave that has taken place. Yes, the numbers are dismal. It's 0.73, the worst ever I can think of probably in the last 40 years or so. And of course, the silver lining is that the agriculture has done well. So we'll have to wait and see how agriculture does in this present year. There has been, despite the farmers' protests, an increase. And it's in this context that we will have to wait and listen to experts and watch how the economy opens up, because that's key to India's growth targets. And if India has to fight and handle the pandemic, it also needs to be able to have some growth in place.
All right, and vaccination seems to be the only way forward to that, being emphasized by industry as well. Thanks, Sunil, for joining us with that. But FICCI, looking at those numbers, even before those numbers came in, had some very blunt warnings, saying that the overall business confidence is nosediving. Business confidence index has actually fallen to actually 51.5% from earlier, 74.2. Outlook on profits over the next 6 months, they also deteriorate at this point. And 80% facing issues amidst the localized lockdowns as well. The topmost concern, as FICCI says, is weak demand and consumer sentiment. Manpower shortage as well being highlighted in that report by FICCI, saying there is still fear of more infections. And talking about those infections, let's give you a wrap on the numbers, how they stand as of the past 24 hours. Well, if you look at those figures, they actually show a downward trend, down by 7.7% cases at least. Deaths also down by 9.6%. Past 24 hours, it was 3,128. Deaths also down 18.5%, and positivity rate, well, that continues to be less than 10% for the 7th consecutive day. But while we look at all of these figures so far with a sense of relief, look at this. Vaccination down by 66.4%, not a good figure. But is this only a Sunday phenomenon? Well, that remains to be seen. And the biggest worry right now continues to be low vaccination and also high amount of deaths. Now, these states that you see on your screen right now, the top 10, all of them at this point contributing to the largest chunk of deaths in the country. Of the 54,710 deaths that we have reported in the past 2 weeks, 3 of every 4 happened in these states. Now, what's to be pointed out here is that while the overall India is now finally seeing a dip, the overall figures there finally seeing a dip, just 1.3%, however, in the 2-week death count. The worrying factor here is that 5 of these 10 states, you see them marked in red over there, are still showing high death count. These include states like Tamil Nadu, states like Kerala as well, where deaths continue to be on the rise. Well, moving on now, the government on Monday faced some very tough questions about the COVID vaccination policy, and this happened in the Supreme Court, where Supreme Court flagged out the various flaws in the inoculation drive, criticised for differential pricing as well, shortage of doses, lack of access from rural areas of the country as well. In fact, it went on to say, and I quote here now, that our arms are strong enough to come down on the government. If the purpose is to procure vaccine, why should centre not procure for all and only procure for 45 and above age? Centre must take responsibility of vaccine pricing for the whole nation. Why should there be differential pricing after all? And then also saying that at this point, they will be looking into the details. To this, remember, Centre responded saying that policy is not cast in stone and it remains to be dynamic. And if vaccination is opened up for all, this is according to the Centre, remember, they fear there will be overcrowding. Now, the Centre has been given 2 weeks to respond to these issues and concerns, pertinent ones raised by the Supreme Court. Let's shift our focus to Bengal now, where the state's chief secretary, in news for the push and pull that the centre and state have been doing over his responsibilities and transfer, today in a surprise move, retired. This meant that he does not need to report to the Modi government anymore, but instead, he has now been appointed as the chief advisor to the Bengal government for a period of 3 years, i.e., he will continue to work for Mamata Banerjee. Now, the centre obviously very uneasy about this. We'll talk more about that with Monitipa, but first up, here's what Mamata Banerjee said over the issue.
We need the service of Alapan Bandyopadhyay very badly. He retired, but I didn't allow him to leave Navarno. And I allowed him to be chief advisor of chief minister. He will start his work from today itself. Tomorrow, because today is his retirement day. So I have already ordered.
Mamata Banerjee joins us live now. Mamata, many would say this round belonged to Mamata Banerjee. She managed to give in a googly there. But now we are hearing from sources that there could be a charge sheet against him and possible action for sort of defying those orders as well. What are you hearing?
That's right. I mean, ever since we heard about the fact that Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay retired from service this evening, as was scheduled, there has been a lot of, dust being kicked up about what happens next. According to some IAS officers, former ones that we have spoken to, there cannot be any action because, he has retired. He has just done what was expected of him on the 31st of May. Today was his last day at work. So how can he be charge sheeted if he is a retired officer? But the question remains, can he be, taken to task by the centre for defying central orders to report to the centre on assignment from today. The first order came in on the 28th of March after that controversial meeting between the Prime Minister and the Chief Minister at Kalaikunda. And then this evening, there was this fresh letter that came from Delhi. The letter from Delhi today came after Mamata Banerjee had written to the Prime Minister this morning very strongly, saying that she was not going to allow the Chief Secretary to go at such a crucial time when Bengal was dealing with Cyclone Yas and with the COVID situation, both of which were being steered, the fights were being steered by Mr. Bandyopadhyay.
Right.
So the question is open. Some officials, some IAS former officials say no action is possible, but we'll have to wait and watch. What is clear, however, is that, the retirement of a civil servant, Mr. Alapan Bandyopadhyay, is sure to embitter further the relations between the centre and state.
And for sure, what's also happened is that the khela is not over just yet. We will continue to see this back and forth between centre and state happen, which is truly a sad reality that we're all living in at this point. Thanks, Monideepa, for joining us with the very latest. And talking about COVID earlier, let's talk about unlock now. The number of COVID-19 cases continue to show a declining trend in the country, but India is gradually unlocking because of that. This next report tells you what's open and what's not in most of the states. Now, unlocking.
Sights and sounds of India reopening.
I've come here to shop because it's my wedding in July. And we've been waiting for a really long time. A lot of shopping is left. So yeah, I'm here just shopping for my trousseau basically.
In Haryana, though the lockdown has been extended till the 7th of June, malls and hotels have been allowed to open.
I think I'm very happy that the malls are open. Yes, we understand the responsibility that is imposed on us by doing this, that we have to be very, very careful. We cannot let the virus, go into a tailspin again and cause problems again.
Industrial India slowly restarting too, as COVID restrictions are eased in parts of the country. But as work slowly resumes for construction and factory workers in Delhi after 42 days, bringing back labourers in full force is a challenge.
Construction को लेके यहाँ पे लेबर का मेन प्रॉब्लम है. जो कोरोना के डर से लेबर भागी हुई है, वो लेबर जल्दी से नहीं आ पा रही है. हम लोग कहते हैं आ जाओ, अब ऐसा खतरा नहीं है, और कोविड के जो गाइडलाइन है उनको फॉलो करते हैं हम सभी लोग.
Uttar Pradesh will formally relax its COVID curfew in 61 of 75 districts only on Tuesday, but already huge crowds this morning at this market in eastern UP's Jaunpur. COVID restrictions will be relaxed in districts where active cases are less than 600. There will be no relaxations yet in major urban centers like Lucknow, Varanasi and Noida. Markets in districts that have less than 600 active cases can now open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on weekdays. Private offices and industrial units have been allowed to open. School, colleges, cinema halls, gyms and shopping malls will remain shut.
Telangana has extended lockdown for another 10 days, but the hours of relaxation has in fact been increased. From the 12th of May, in fact, Telangana had relaxation only for 4 hours between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m.
But many feel these timings are not suitable for shopping.
Corona ma site aithe koncham tagginatte undi madam. Lockdown vettutlo maaku nashtam vachindi.
ఇప్పుడు కొంచెం లాక్డౌన్ రిలాక్స్ చేశారు కదా, అది బాగుంది అంటున్నారా?
బాగానే రాగం కాకుంటే బాగానే అవుతది కదా.
Several states in India are resuming operations and gradually unlocking. Authorities say that this partial easing of curbs is due to a significant dip in COVID cases and a controlled COVID situation in their area. But the question is, how strictly will these new guidelines be implemented, and more importantly, how strictly will it be followed? With my colleague Alapan Bandyopadhyay in Uttar Pradesh and Uma Sudhir in Hyderabad and camera person Mursalin, Shunakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
Now, hours after the Delhi High Court rejected a challenge to the Central Vista project, Union Minister Hardeep Puri said a false narrative was being propagated over the plan and that no heritage building would actually be touched. He also defended the cost of the big ticket makeover, saying it had no bearing on the procurement of vaccines.
13,400 का एक मोदी महल बनाया जा रहा है. अरे भाई साहब, ये फिगर्स कहां से आ रहे हैं? और सेंट्रल विस्टा और सेंट्रल विस्टा एवेन्यू में का उनमें अंतर जो है वो भी नहीं मालूम. The two are being freely interchanged.
The centre today defended the controversial Central Vista construction after the Delhi High Court's go-ahead and fining the petitioner 1 lakh of rupees.
The Central Vista project has been criticized by many on various grounds, including the opposition, who feel that the resources that have been used should have been diverted for the COVID pandemic, especially since the centre is only bearing 50% of the cost for the vaccinations.
आज भी अब 3.25 लाख लोग देश में जान गंवा चुके हैं. न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स का आंकड़ा है कि ये सरकार का आंकड़ा झूठा है. उनके अनुसार 42 लाख लोगों ने कोविड में अपनी जान गंवा दी है, और आप अपने लिए मोदी महल बना रहे हैं उन सब के बीच में.
कई महीनों से
The Urban Development Minister Hardeep Puri said a false narrative has been portrayed and there will be enough money for vaccines and advance payments have been made till August and there will be enough of vaccines for everyone by December.
20,000 करोड़ का खर्चा आप महामारी के दौरान कर रहे हैं. इस पैसे को आप लगाइए वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम पे. वैक्सीनेशन प्रोग्राम पे भी आई एम क्वाइट हैप्पी टू आंसर क्वेश्चन. 35,000 करोड़ केंद्रीय सरकार ने वैक्सीनेशन प्लान के लिए एलोकेट किया है.
Conceding the pandemic has taken its toll on the Central Vista project, there will be delays for the new Prime Minister's office and the Vice President's house, and the entire project is slated to be completed by 2025. Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Moving on, uncertainty over the 12th examination, CBSE exams continues, and Centre today told the Supreme Court that a final decision is likely to be taken soon and they will return back to the court on Thursday with the latest decision on that. The Supreme Court told the Centre, however, that if exams are not cancelled like last year, then they should be giving them a tangible reason for that. The PIL had basically asked for cancellation of 12th examination and declare results on internal assessment. Shifting our focus to UP now, and more shocking incidents of COVID really emerging out of there. Look at these visuals, despicable really, of cops dumping in a dead man's body into a garbage truck. This happened in the Mahoba district, the body of a 50-year-old. Dumped in the garbage truck in the presence of the son as well. The man apparently had fallen ill after his return from the capital, where he worked as a labourer. He went to the hospital, but it was too late. Also from UP, distressing visuals from the Sant Kabir Nagar district, where a body of a COVID patient was loaded on a JCB machine for transfer to the burial spot and then literally dumped into a grave. And finally, let's leave you on something to smile about maybe. This is what a lot of students in the country are facing, articulated especially for Prime Minister Modi by this 6-year-old girl.
क्यों रखते हैं? इतना काम होता है बड़ू बच्चों को. जब मैं सुबह उठती हूँ 10 बजे, मुझे दो बजे तक होती है क्लास. एक होती है इंग्लिश, उसके बाद मैथ, उसके बाद उर्दू, उसके बाद EVS, उसके बाद कंप्यूटर. इतना ज़्यादा काम रखते हैं बड़ू बच्चों को, जो थे 7, 6, 10. छोटे बच्चों को इतना काम क्यों रखते हैं मोदी साहब?